if you recall, sometime last week, Lawyer Atta Akyea walked out of court because he was not happy about the proceedings and how things went. And that also drew some criticism and divergent views as to whether a lawyer can walk out of open court like that. Dennis, and this is what we are seeing. A unanimous decision. Yes. Dismiss the application to remove the trial judge.
Yes.
How's it playing out now?
But the recall of the walking out of the learned counsel for the accused persons is a good starting point for this, because the reason for the walkout had everything to do with this particular application that was determined today. And the context is that when they appeared before that court that very morning, they had filed this application which was pending before the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. So they had to bring to the attention of the trial judge that they had a pending application which was seeking to restrain him or to prohibit him, so to speak. And in that regard, they were praying for an adjournment so that they would deal with this matter today and then come back to continue the trial. Mm-hmm. That did not find favor with the court. In other words, the court did not grant that prayer. And that was the reason for which the learned Atta Akyea had to do whatever he did. And in fact, today before the Supreme Court, he brought that to the attention of the court and did indicate that he was constrained under the circumstances, and that was how come he had to take that particular move. But however, the matters that were before the Supreme Court were pretty much simple. That's having looked at the conduct and some of the utterances that the trial judge had made in this trial so far, the accused persons think that the trial judge is biased, for which reason they were seeking the Supreme Court to restrain or at least to stop him or take him out of the case from further hearing the case, because they do not think that with him doing the trial, they will get justice. And the basis for what their claims, of course, they had to justify why they were saying so. So they made references to some of the pronouncements that the judge had made in respect of some applications that they had made. We recall that Atta Akyea had made an application on behalf of the accused persons for some disclosures, asking that the prosecution should furnish them with some documents. Mm-hmm. According to them, part of that ruling, the trial judge actually indicated that that application was an abuse of court processes and that the information they were asking for would not assist the court in arriving at its decision. So for them, those comments made by the judge in themselves were prejudicial, because their contention was that they were asking for disclosure of certain documents that the trial judge had not seen. So on what basis then was the trial judge then saying that the documents will not assist the court in arriving at its decision? So in their view, such comments already prejudged the matter and do not think that with him in there, they would get justice. There was another issue that they raised, which in their view amounted to bias. That often, when the court sets a date for a certain ruling, there's usually a prayer from prosecution to abridge the time. So he gave a specific instance where the court had given a 24th day to deliver a certain ruling. But that upon the prayer of prosecution thought the 24th was too far and that the trial needed to be expedited. Okay. So prosecution proposed 17th instead of 14th, and that prayer was granted. In their view, that amounted to bias.
I see.
So those were some of the things, including even their request for that disclosure to be made. In their view, that disclosure meant that there was information enough for the accused persons to be able to use the word loosely, prove their innocence, even though the accused doesn't prove. But in this context, it will help the accused get out of this trouble. Right. And to the extent that the court did not allow that disclosure to be made, that in itself was a problem for them. So basically, that was the crux of the accused person's case before the Supreme Court, hoping that all of that put together, the trial judge will be prohibited from further hearing the matter.
Which the Supreme Court has dismissed.
The Supreme Court has dismissed. And of course, that was upon the opposition by the prosecution, which was led by the Deputy Attorney General, Dr. Shremsai, in that particular regard. I mean, for him, he believed that whatever that was said, in the first instance, to correct the record, that whatever documents that they filed before the courts were not documents that they got in their entirety and decided to remove some of the documents, as the accused person's lawyer sought to portray. He simply made the point that they applied for certain documents because the act alleged to be committed, or the theft alleged to have been committed, happened within a period of time.
Right.
So they only applied for the documents within that period of time, and then they filed same. So it's not the case that they got all the documents and decided to remove some of them.
I see.
He also makes the case that because the judge made a pronouncement within his jurisdiction, if there was any remedy for the accused persons, it had to be by way of an appeal and not by way of a judicial review or this kind of process. So by and large, on the totality of it, looking at the evidence before the court, including submissions of counsel, the court came to the conclusion that no, the application did not have any merit.
So
And
the
that's how
trial
come-
judge stays.
Yes. So what it means is that essentially the trial judge stays. Learned counsel Atta Akyea will have to go back to that court and then they'll proceed. So that's how come you hear him say that he's disappointed, but they soldier on regardless.
Let's take a listen to him again. It defines the posture and the response to exactly what Denis, you've carefully and expressly elucidated there and in the proceedings in court earlier today. This is Atta Akyea again. Take a look.
I'm disappointed but not discouraged. We'll see how the case will travel.
How does it feel going back to the same court that you...
It doesn't move me at all. The only persuasion a judge will have is the law. I'm not going to have a banter with him. I'm not going to fight him over anything. I'm just going to project the law. It doesn't move me at all.
The full
Well, so that's Samuel Atta Akyea there. So they're going back to the court with this same trial judge that they raised some prejudice against.
Yes.
And when is the next date for this case?
Trial continues somewhere next week. What it means is that prosecution will continue to keep its witness in the box because, mind you, where the confusion erupted was the fact that prosecution, having put a witness in the box, was about tendering in some documents to which the accused person's lawyer, Lawyer Atta Akyea, raised an objection. That's also raised another debate altogether, or an argument, for which the court had to make a determination as to whether the document should be admitted or not admitted. The judge ruled in favor of prosecution that the documents be admitted. So what it essentially means is that when they go back to court, they are going to continue from where they left off. Once the evidence is admitted, they continue with cross-examination, and that's how that's how the case will progress in the coming days.
Well, it's one that we'll look at quite closely, and this is not the only one. From the National Signals Bureau case, that's the NSB, let's go to NSA. That's the National Service Authority. This is another case that is also playing out in court in a very interesting way. But this time around, outside of the courts and the documents that have been adduced, we do know a forensic audit by the Auditor General, which has uncovered questionable payments, and that's what's coming up next, made to former executive director of the National Signals, that's the National Service Authority, that's NSA, Osei Asibenchi, and his deputy, Gifty Owari Mensah. Now, even though we've had some detail put out on a number of occasions by the Attorney General during these press conferences to update the public on the cases he's prosecuting, the forensic audit detail, which we also have seen portions of, but the full complement of the forensic audit reveals quite a lot. So we're going to be serializing portions of it as we go on in the coming days. But tonight, we'll start with one that would also get you thinking. But Denis, what did we find in this forensic audit? And bear in mind, this forensic audit was conducted by the Auditor General.
Yes.
The Auditor General had come previously under some flack because questions were asked as to if the Auditor General is conducting audits on all these institutions on a yearly basis, why did they not uncover this until this point, this time?
Alfred, you remember also that when the Attorney General addressed the press or addressed the public in respect of this particular matter and preferring charges against some individuals in the National Service Authority, those under the previous administration, he did indicate that the initial investigations by Uyoko revealed that the amount involved was some amount around the regions of 500 million Ghana cedis. However, upon a special audit by the Auditor General, a forensic audit at that, the figure now stands at 2.2 billion.
True.
So this is from that particular report that has the figure in the regions of
2.2 billion.
Yes. But because these persons are already before the courts, we will deal with them tonight.
Sure.
Because some of the revelations coming are rather shocking. So let's begin with the former Director General himself of the National Service Authority, Mr. Asibe Ose. Now, that a payroll review revealed repeated high-value payments. We're going to look at the high-value payments and how they are made. Now, these are some of the findings from that particular report. That Mr. Asibe Ose was registered as a volunteer under the ID. Then they provide the ID. Maybe for purposes of those, yes, it's an ID. So let's just say that he was given a specific ID.
He was
registered as a volunteer on the National Service Scheme.
The Director General?
Yes. That, though officially posted to Greater Accra, of course, when you are registered as a National Service person, you'll be posted.
No, so the Director General was registered as a National Service
yes,
person?
and posted to Greater Accra. He was supposed to be posted to Greater Accra region. Payroll records falsely placed him at Kumau Farms. He continues to say that he held an e-switch card with the number provided and received 516,000 monthly. He held an e-switch card and received 516,000 monthly.
But for what? As a national service?
Yes.
But that was not what they were paying national service persons.
Well, in
If this was what was being paid national service
they
persons.
say it was repeated high-value payments, which were suspicious. So ordinarily, they don't conform to what
Sure.
a regular national service person would.
I mean, imagine a service person being paid this much.
This report actually does a breakdown of how much it can pay the regular national service person. 516,000 monthly between 2023 and 2024, and this totals 8,256,000 Ghana cedis. Now, Kumau Farms has 50 volunteers, each paid separately through their own e-switch cards. That there's no record or evidence that Mr. Ose collected or disbursed these funds to others.
Right.
The monthly amount paid to him equals the allowances of about 721 personnel. So you asked if that was what regular national service were paying. So they are saying this amount that was given to him could actually pay 721 national service personnel.
Every month?
Yes.
That's a 516,000.
Precisely. Suggesting serious financial irregularities or possible diversion of the funds. You also recall that as part of the Attorney General's address, he did mention that part of investigations they uncovered or they discovered an e-switch card in the residence of the former Director General.
That's
so
true.
this, in a way,
so on the face of this forensic audit detail, we could safely say that based on the findings, that this 516,000 a month that the forensic audit revealed was being paid to the National Service Authority Director General actually could have paid the allowance of 721 service personnel every month.
Yes.
For that length of the period.
Precisely.
That he was taking that money.
Now let's deal with the deputy or the former deputy. So in her case, while she was also employed as the Deputy Executive Director of the National Service Secretariat, that's being a full-time salaried public officer, she was also enrolled and placed on the National Service payroll as a national service person.
Same template?
Same templates. In fact, in this instance, it provides specifics that on the 16th of March, 2021. Now, what were the findings? That one, the individual was manually uploaded into the NSA system by one A.J. Robert Ni Lai Kuma, an NSS officer. Now, why this is curious is because they were dealing with a software. So wherever you see something manually done, then it raises questions. There was also another finding that her PIN was approved by Mustafa Yusuf on the 22nd day of April 2021, though he lacked authority to do so, as he had become Minister for Youth and Sports and not an NSS official.
So Mustafa Yusuf was a former Director General? The
one before Mr. Ose. Yes.
And this forensic audit report says what? He approved
the PIN for Gifty
Owari.
And on the day that was done, Yusuf then had become the Minister for Youth and Sports.
So thereby he had no authority.
That's what the audit finds.
Is Yagaba Kabore a member of parliament, right?
Precisely. And one of the persons named in the investigations, for which, except that at this point, we have not heard from the Attorney General whether charges will be preferred against him or not. But of course, the Attorney General indicates that there are other national service persons or former who will also be charged. As to whether he will be one of them, we still cannot tell at this point. But this is what the audit has uncovered. It also gives further details as to where exactly she was posted to. Now we're talking about the Gift Owari Mensah, that she was posted to a school somewhere in Tamale, but she failed to report within the period required 3 months, that she did not undergo any biometric or physical validation mandated by NSS regulations, because this is standard practice for national service persons. You need to physically go and validate and go through that process. Now, despite all these irregularities, that she was placed on the payroll and her entire allowance. But in her case, she was paid the regular national service allowance. So the total, for the total year that the allowance was paid to her, it was 6,708 cedis 48 pesos for the 2021-2022 service year. And that was diverted to a vendor via the marketplace platform for a purported credit facility. So even though she was taking this amount of money in her name, it was diverted to a vendor who purportedly was providing a credit facility. So Alfred, these are some of the things that I imagined from that particular forensic audit. There's a lot more in it we'll be looking in the coming days.
Yeah, it's one of a matter of interest. Then stay with me because